When we face what's going on today in the world, can take that as a big lesson, because the lesson really is that your inner self must meet the outer, no matter what the outer is like. And when you come with your whole self is adequate for the moment. And there's a phrase in Zen. The phrase in Zen is, you are adequate for this moment. You are adequate for this moment. Doesn't mean it's easy. And it doesn't mean you'll like it, and it doesn't even mean that it will ease the pain at all, but it will tell you the truth, that you are adequate for this moment. Tia, I want to thank you for that great little story about the hummingbird. The hummingbird story is one that has been around for many generations in Africa, and I believe actually in the Americas as well. One thing about that story is it says, despite the fact that it's hopeless, we act according to our own being. And I want to continue that thought a little bit as we go forward, because there's a quote here from this book called A Book of Awakenings by Mark Nepo. I'm going to read the whole thing. It's not very long, but I was struck by this phrase at the very beginning. You must meet the outer world with your inner world, or existence will crush you. So here's the rest of it. There is a wind that keeps blowing since the beginning of time, and in every language ever spoken, it continues to whisper, you must meet the outer world with your inner world, or existence will crush you. If inner does not meet outer, our lives will collapse and vanish, though we think that hiding our inwardness will somehow protect or save us. It's quite the opposite. The heart is very much like a miraculous balloon. Its lightness comes from staying full. Meeting our days with our heart prevents collapse. This is why 90-year-old widows remain committed to tending small gardens in the spring, why 10-year-olds with very little to eat care for stray kittens, holding them to their skinny chests. Why painters going blind paint more. Why composers going deaf write great symphonies. This is why when we think we can't possibly try again, we let out a sigh that goes back through centuries, and then, despite our experience, we inhale and try again. As in this month, when we celebrate Black History Month, and I want to thank the women for your presentation today. When we celebrate Black History Month, we celebrate really the human spirit, one that can continue to be resilient when life has been very difficult and there's no prospect of relief in sight. And so I think when I think back of those people who crossed the ocean in the bowels of a ship, came to a place they didn't know the language, were treated like animals, and then enslaved for work. It's almost impossible for me to fully grasp how easily despair, hopelessness, anger, frustration, but more, as I think about it, it's hopelessness. How hopeless the situation could be, and so easy it would be to fall into that state and stay there. And yet if you hear the songs of the slaves over the centuries, they were upbeat, talking about, quite often, the promised land, talking about a place they have not seen on this earth, and yet they believe would be there for them. So I think when we think about that in the direst of centuries-long oppression, our own spirit, when we face what's going on today in the world, can take that as a big lesson, because the lesson really is that your inner self must meet the outer, no matter what the outer is like. And when you come with your whole self is adequate for the moment. And there's a phrase in Zen. The phrase in Zen is, you are adequate for this moment. You are adequate for this moment. Doesn't mean it's easy. And it doesn't mean you'll like it, and it doesn't even mean that it will ease the pain at all, but it will tell you the truth, that you are adequate for this moment. And so I'm kind of struck these days how the amount of consternation that people are carrying, because it seems as though the world is in a bizarre state of disrepair. I was thinking about Gaza. There's hardly a Gaza left with a building standing. 72,000 Palestinians and roughly 2,000 Israelis have died in that time period. These are people that live next to each other, that for some small incremental difference, they consider each other enemies. It's a shame. In this country right now, the most newsworthy event that's happened in the last few weeks has been the killing of 2 American citizens while they're trying to be witnesses or resist in some way the deportation of people that have lived in their community. And the deportation is by people with masks on and no identification, told by their leaders in Washington that they have immunity, which has led to what appears to be unreasonable force. None of the videos I have seen can justify the killing of those 2 people. I was talking with someone recently, and it reminds me that when we think we know everything, maybe we don't know it all. And she was talking about, we were discussing this situation, and she said, I believe the reason they are wearing masks is because they're afraid that people will find them and will come after them or their families and drag them from their houses. I thought the irony of that was extreme. But the part that was true in that is that when we think of the people who've signed up to be masked agents, is that there must be something in their background. Perhaps it's something that a politician has told them for a long period of time, that the brown people are the enemy. And they have believed it because they have been dissatisfied in their life, and it seems like somebody must be at fault for that. Or perhaps they had a difficult childhood, or perhaps they had a father that was using force instead of words to express himself, and they often found themselves at the butt of that violence. Or maybe they just hang out with the wrong crowd, or maybe they just haven't thought about it enough to realize that, as we say here every week, we're all one people. There's a little bit of tiny bits of difference that separate us, but just like when we can see it between the Jews and the Palestinians, there's almost nothing that separates us. And so when we see another and we make more of the difference than the likeness, we tend to discount them as human beings, and we tend to be less careful with the way we treat them. So I think when I see those videos, and I find it unbelievable, I think it's time for me to pause and to ask the question, what brought them to this moment? What brought, not the victim so much as in this time, but what brought the perpetrators in this moment? And how is it that I can see them so differently than I see myself? There's a passage by Albert Camus, and it goes like this: we all carry within us our places of exile, our crimes, our ravages. Our task is not to unleash them on the world, it is to transform them in ourselves and in others. And so I've wondered what it is that I am to do when I look upon this and go, if I'm honest, I've been very lucky. I had good parents. I've had good opportunities. I can't claim with any degree of sincerity that anyone has taken anything from me that I have not essentially given. And so I don't have a perfect one-to-one to relate. But I do believe when I watch myself and be unkind and be judgmental and to carry ideas about other people I have never even met, perhaps it's my own reflection of what they're going through at depth. I've made them other. And so I believe our job, and it's a question I ask myself all the time now, what is mine to do? I think our job, my job at least, is to find a way to interact with the world in which my essence can come through and invoke their essence. So that even though in a world that doesn't make sense, that would crush and is crushing others, that we might mend it. We have a class here on Thursday afternoon, and I really enjoy talking with this class because most of the time I get to listen, and in that ideas emerge. And one of the ideas that emerged in this class was that one of the greatest, quickest ways to bring people into harmonics or in coherence with each other is to play. To play, not to sing or even meditate or to hold hands, but to play. And it struck me that, when we had the Occupy Wall Street, there's a story that happened in Oakland, California, and they were occupying the Wall Street of Oakland, and the bankers were inside, and they had locked the doors, and they were looking out upon the protesters, and they were looking out with fear. And instead of shouting and doing their signs, they gathered a large pile of $1 bills and started hanging them out to people that passed by in front of the bank. They did a nonsensical event, a humorous event to some degree, in the face of real, reasoned anger. And I think that might be sort of a way to begin to think about it. That instead of coming head to head, you against me, you are wrong and I am right attitude, that instead we approach it with something similar to humor or similar to play. I've seen some pictures of people protesting ICE's activities in these cartoon characters. And I'm going to lead up to a much more spiritual way of doing it, but I think on a practical basis. When you confront someone, you do not make a friend. You rarely change their mind. And it could be that you harden your heart. And so perhaps the way to do it is to make a joke of it in some way, with serious intent, but to approach, someone suggested, throw them a frisbee, right? Make the world a better place. Maybe we bring them a Coke. I don't know, works on TV. The whole thing is that when we're in the mindset of opposition, we do not have a solution. We have opposition, we do not have a solution. And it might feel good, but it won't go well, in my opinion. It won't go well if it's not coupled with something that transcends our state of mind that appears to be oppositional. Martin Luther King and the whole civil rights movement was really trained in the idea of nonviolence, or most of them were trained in nonviolence. And the idea was that you met violence with nonviolence, and the conscience of the person doing the violence would be awakened. And the conscience of the country would be awakened by seeing, oh, it really is that way. I believe that's happening somewhat today here in this country. This is a George Floyd moment with the last one, a man on the ground, shot in the back. But we need a way to act. We need a way to act that transcends our own prejudice, our own point of view, our perspective, and to come at it from a higher place. Now, many people have said this world is in such turmoil that something good must be coming from it. And perhaps if it's something good is to come from it, it would be this: that we cease to see anyone as other, and we hold compassion for the whole of it, for the whole drama of it. That we look actually higher than the moment, to a place and a time when we actually do bring heaven on earth. By instead of responding to our own sense of separateness, we respond to this with imagination, with novelty, and in the end, with compassion. So I'm going to do a little meditation here, and a lot of what brought me in to this moment today has been reading this book, which is the book we're doing in a book study. The book study is no longer called a book study; we call it a book club, and this is a series of short, either essays or stories that allow you to hold a thought through the idea of a story or a brief expose. It can bring you to the moment of feeling again your own essence. Like the hummingbird, it may feel useless or it may feel hopeless, but you must meet the world with your essence or the world will crush you. So let us pray. I'd like you to consider that we're going to move into a state of mind that we might be able to carry as we move forth in the world. So let us close our eyes if it's comfortable and begin by relaxing, letting your body find comfort, find peace, drawing your attention away from the world toward your own essence. And as you go into that, should an idea, an image come that brings you out of it, return back to the essence of who you are. Return back to that of which you are instead of that which you have seen. Let's breathe into our hearts and open them. Let the heart be a balloon that is filled with love so that it can be lighter. And now let us hold compassion for and send love to the children in the hospitals, those fighting for their lives, those suffering from other things. Bring your heart to them. And then bring your heart to the people who take care of them. The nurses, the orderlies, the doctors, the receptionists. And bring our attention now to Palestine, where there is anger, tension, and violence. And spread your compassion across the whole terrain equally on each person, equally on each side. Be like the hummingbird. And drop your drop of compassion on the fires of distrust and hatred. And bring your compassion to this country where we have, through manipulation and even our own choice, chosen to pick sides and to consider the other not quite worthy of our care and consideration. And somehow they have caused us trouble, and we are not part of it. Let us send compassion to them as well as those who think like we do. Whomever side we're on, whomever we're with, consider them reminders of your own true nature, which is easily seen as compassionate when given a chance. And let us begin to cultivate a transcendent way of looking. That we look upon our situation not just as a particle, but as part of the whole. That we see our present moment as a manifestation, but not the only manifestation possible. We look upon our situation and see it changed with our own compassion. We look upon our world as though we were looking upon ourselves. And take time before we stop to empty yourself of all thoughts of conflict and to bring yourself to a place of love and acceptance, a vibration that is your true nature, that sometimes gets clouded over with images and stories. But who are you? Are you not this heart, this one who knows itself among all things equal, a part of, not against? Hold yourself with compassion. Forgive yourself for any crime you have committed, and extend love to the generations before you and the generations that will come after you, that we might transform this world with humor and with love, with a willingness to be the change. And so it is. Amen. I hope you got something out of today's service. We intend to bring you things that will help you in your life become more of who you want to be, give you the freedom of forgiveness and the hope of expectancy that your life will unfold in a way that brings you joy, happiness, and is a contribution to the world. If you would like to contribute to this ministry, please go to unitytriangle.org, hit the donate button, and it will lead you into an easy way of doing that. We thank you for your attention and look forward to seeing you again here.